A story that we've been following passionately for a week, a Texas pastor who challenged married church members to, well, get to know each other biblically 7 days in a row. And as you can imagine, it wasn't too hard to convince the congregation.
In fact, 12:01, we've already started practicing.
Because the Bible said so.
That's
okay?
right.
I think it's a great idea, and I think that he has touched on this before, not at this depth, but he's touched on this before and thinks that this is very, very important.
All right, so today's day 6. Let's go ahead and check in with Pastor Ed Young and, of course, his beautiful wife, Lisa. They join us live from New York. Great to see you both.
Thank you, Kira.
Great to see you, too.
Well, let's just for a second, just for those that are maybe just tuning in and hadn't heard about this, which I'd be surprised if they had not by now. Pastor Young, tell me why you thought this idea would help your parishioners.
Well, the Bible talks so much about sex, and the church has been quiet about a subject that God was not quiet about. So our goal in the 7-Day Sex Challenge was to really fortify marriages, because when you do that, you build families. So really our heart beats for the marriages, and what happens inside the bedroom affects what happens outside the bedroom. So that's why we did it.
So Lisa, when your husband, went before the congregation and did this, did you come home and say, uh-oh, what were you thinking, honey?
Yeah. Well, Kira, I hate to take responsibility for this, but I was in the pediatrician's office and found a magazine, and I did ask permission to take the magazine because it dealt with this subject matter that Ed was in this series of talks, and I said, do you mind if I take this? So I showed it to him, and that's where he found the idea for the 7-Day Challenge. So,
I'm
good. You know what, though, on a serious note, I'm very thrilled because I know the potential that so many married couples have, and that there's a lot of misnomers and misconceptions about God's view of sex, and for them to realize the importance of doing it, but doing it God's way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You make a really good point. And I know you've received a lot of emails. I do have more questions for you too, but I want to get to these emails because you've been getting tons of them about how this has affected church members. This one written to you, it says, the 7-Day Challenge has caused us to reach for some creative and original ways to connect physically, very reminiscent of when we were first married. We decided to divide up the days and each take responsibility for planning that day's sexual connection. We're now looking forward each day to something special. Now, Pastor Young, that's what everybody wants. When you hit the, it's the 7-year itch or whatever it is. I mean, everybody wants to go back to that first day where, the wedding day and how wonderful it was.
That's right. And so often we concentrate so much on our feelings that we forget about the commitment, because marriage is a commitment. Also should be a commitment of creativity. And when you talk about romance, you got to talk about creativity. So the guys, the husbands, we've got to be creative. And I think when we're creative, that even leads to more creativity in all aspects of life, especially in the bedroom. Because I know when Lisa and I started this 7-Day Challenge, we're like, okay, 7 days, that's awesome. But, after the 4th or 5th day, so.
You didn't want 7 days of monotony.
That's right.
Well, so I'm glad to hear that some other couples dealt with the same issue.
And I think believers should have the most creative sex. I really strongly believe that.
All right. Well, you also had a number of revelations. Some pretty heart-wrenching things came forward too. Yes. This email was pretty powerful. One of your members says, just a year ago, I struggled with using pornography instead of the sacred gift that God has given us, my wife and me. For those who can't see sex beyond a physical need, you just don't know what you are missing. Removing my lustful distractions allows me and my wife to worship God in a way in which we never have. And that is one of the temptations, and I'm sure you would say it's the devil that tempts other people to sleep with other people, because things do get monotonous or boring, or they look to other ways to find excitement when, things just seem routine after a number of years.
Exactly, and I think the terrible thing about pornography is it turns humans into animals, and we look at people with objects as parts, as opposed to seeing our spouse and having our spouse be the standard of beauty. And Lisa and I have seen so many marriages that have been devastated by pornography, yet when creativity and romance and some decisions have been made to stay away from that and to funnel and to and to think about your spouse in a creative way, that's when things go to a whole nother level.
Well, here's a great one. A member says that we were on the brink of divorce, and now we're on our 3rd day of this experiment. Received flowers Monday at work. I'm falling in love with my husband again, and he's honoring and loving me as Christ loves the church. And, you know, Lisa, as females, I think that, you know, we struggle to still be beautiful, especially after having children, and, you know, you don't ever want your man to stray, and that's a big challenge. You know, how does your faith and exercises like this, you know, within the church kind of take it to a different level?
Well, no doubt sex is such a great gift from God, and so we just encourage couples to see it that way. And I know a lot of women struggle with self-image and self-esteem, but God has created each one of us uniquely with our own beauty. And I believe when men love their wives, when husbands love their wives in such a sacrificial way, the women feel that beauty, they feel that love, and their self-esteem is improved by that. And that just pours in richly and deeply into their physical relationship. And it's a struggle for many women to not think of sex as a duty, but as a privilege with their spouse. And when you see it that way, when you look forward to it, when you're excited and enthusiastic about it, that again translates into every area of your life, not just that physical part of marriage, but the emotional and the relational and the spiritual side.
Well, I hope you guys have a terrific weekend. What are you going to do tonight, Pastor Young?
Well, it's going to be
Your wife
creative.
is looking pretty hot.
It'll be creative. It'll be creative.
Outstanding. I hope you have a creative weekend and a fabulous time at church on Sunday. We'll love to know how you got even more responses than what we were able to read. Great to meet you both. You're a beautiful couple.